Hello, dear Starshines. Welcome to another edition of the Lunchtime Chats. I'm a little bit behind. I was going to do these chats outside. You know, I'm on the Front Range in Loveland. And it's absolutely gorgeous here. But then the wind kicked up and it is frigid when it is windy. when it's blue skies and sunny, it's so nice. But the wind picked up, as you guys can see, and it became frigid, and I would not be able to do a broadcast. So but here we are back in my car. This seems to be the usual spot. Welcome everybody, so glad to see you. For those of you who are new, my name is Christina and I am a consciousness acceleration expert, and we are here to talk about those topics and issues that are significant for us starseeds, wayshowers, and new paradigm visionaries. We have capacities, we have abilities that are not yet embraced by our larger human family, and therefore we have very unique perspectives to the kinds of shenanigans, miracles, things that we see going on in this beautiful, crazy, shifting reality. So welcome everybody. Hello, dear sister Carol and Felicia, and hello, dear Bev. All right, well, so I was thinking about what's interesting to talk about, and and I wrote things down, and wouldn't you know it, all just left my brain, um, coming into this car and coming into the broadcast. um, you know there okay, there's it's starting to come back to me. If there's something on the top of your mind that you would like me to bring into a conversation, go ahead and put it in the chats. You're welcome to do that. So Okay, it's coming back to me. So I was, if you guys don't know, Barbara Hanclow has been doing lots of interviews lately. She is on what I would maybe say a new mission to do her part in awakening, activating the multidimensional human in this world, like so many of us are, right? Hey, Sherry, good to see you. We're all feeling it inspired to continue to engage in the public realm to assist and facilitate this awakening. For me, I want to help facilitate it in such a way so it's so not, because the awakening is inevitable. I'm doing my best to help with that awakening being an empowering journey versus a traumatic journey. But sometimes there's just things that have to be felt, and this is what I started thinking about. It's like, there are some really interesting patterns rising up from the depths of our physical bodies. I'm going to say from our ancestry that are up for scrutiny, up for us looking at it, and how this came. I mean, we know that ancestor work is important. Dear sister Starshine Stacy at Light Body, she has this amazing body of work working with ancestors, both human and not, and so on and so forth. And we know that it's potent. But there's always, we're reaching this place where there's no checking something off the list saying, oh yeah, I got that. As soon as we have an attitude like that, oh yeah, I got that. That's an indication that, we don't got that. We just want to imagine, we want to think, our ego driver, our constructs want to think that we got that, right? Because it always requires us to sincerely and vulnerably show up to the moment, each and every time, right? So to think that we already got something means that's, we're a little bit less vulnerable, we're a little bit less open to the discovery that is possible in that moment, right? So this is what I mean by, checking something off the list and saying, oh yeah, that's done, I dealt with that. No, I think it's maybe more accurate to say, these checks on your list, say, okay, I have experience with that. I've had experience with that. And eventually, depending on the path and acceleration and pacing that you're on, eventually those check marks are really aspects of you that when it resurfaces, you can say, hello, old friend, right? I know you. We've been together before, right? So this is so there's a shift, a mind shift that is really being called for humanity as these things come up. So case in point, I'm staying at this place in Loveland, and right around the corner is a mega church, a really big, it's called the Res Church, something, REZ Church. That's what it's called. And I know mega churches have get a bad rap, I think. They are mega churches for a reason. I think if they were really lousy and not inspiring to people, they wouldn't be so big. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of criticism and scrutiny. And then, just churches in general, there's a lot of, in the light worker world, especially some maybe we'll say bad vibes between the Christian community and New Age community. Not always. I know some amazing, even born again and evangelical Catholics. I know amazing Christians that are pretty phenomenal light workers dealing with codes and stuff like this. So it's not across the board, but it's kind of like a stereotype, maybe we can say. Anyway, I drive by this church all the time, and when I look at it, I can feel this impulse inside of me. I want to go. I want to go into that church. I want to see there's something inside of me that really wants to go. And this is unusual because I'm not necessarily in that construct or prescribed to that particular structure. I mean, I grew up in a Christian family, and I come from my mom's people. It was a long line of farmers and ministers and stuff like this. So it's not like I'm I don't understand, I'm not in the culture. It's like I grew up with it. We studied. I went to Sunday school, all that stuff. But that's not why I want to go. There's this emotional impulse in there. And so I started sitting with that, like, what is going on with that? What is happening with that impulse, right? Because it's so out of the blue, so unusual. And there's so many narratives in my awareness about the stereotypes of that kind of thing. But this morning, when I was thinking about higher dimensions and channeling and the solar flares and the intensities and the 4D field and higher dimensions expressing themselves through the 4D field, it's like this 4D field is in this place that filters all these higher dimensional frequencies. When I say filters, I mean imagine like a sieve, right? And there's this onslaught pouring of light and consciousness into the sieve, and that it all has to find a hole. It all has to find a way to make it through the sieve. That's what the 4D field is doing. And when it does that, it's highlighting, it's illuminating, it's really making obvious certain things within the field. And of course, we have our relationship emotionally to the field of that, right? And what I was realizing is that, we're having some really beautiful golden waves and other frequencies too, these waves of consciousness coming. Some of them are solar flares, some of them are like pulses coming up from the deeper levels of the telluric realm. Some of it is engagement with elemental beings, stuff like this. And what it's doing, it's pulling up to the surface some really deeply rooted foundational ideas that's in my lineage. One of them being, because I actually repeated, I heard the words in my head, but I repeated it to my daughter actually, of something that my mom said to me about going to church. Because when I was 5, I was sitting in church and I had this like enlightened moment where I realized that no one there truly knew God. Like the system that was going on there was not really about connecting with source, with like this kind of thing. And I knew there was something really wrong with this reality in that moment. And I've never forgotten that moment. I'm sure there's many of you out there that had something similar happen around that age, right? Had a dear friend share about, she had an enlightened moment while she was hanging upside in the monkey bars, in the playground. So, those of us who are starseeds or encoded in another way, we have these epiphanies as we grow up. And that was one. And so I was kind of starting to gravitate away from wanting to go to Sunday school and do all those things. And my mom said to me, she says, just to paint the picture of my mom was very open-minded, but she was also very traditional as well. For example, she knew every hymn in the hymn book She did not need to look it up. She knew the words, she knew the melodies. It's like, there's over 100 hymns, right? Depending on the book, of course, but she knew them all by heart. And she, she was really, really engaged with the Christian upbringing, though she was also very open-minded. So she says to me, she's like, you don't go to church to know God. That's what she said to me. And I'm like, and I'm like all ears, because I'm just like, wait a minute, so we're driving, and she says, no, you go to church so you can have a community. So you can have, how'd she say it exactly? So you can have a community that's gathered around a wholesome purpose. That's how she put it. And that just like, that super landed for me. So I was like, okay, all right, I'll keep going to church. I'll keep going. I was young. I'm talking elementary school when she's talking to me like this. And so I did, until I think, I ended up moving to Connecticut with my dad, and that, kind of put the end of that, because he was very anti-God. He really believed that God hated him. That was one of his things. But anyway, I digress. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I feel like what she was putting voice to was a deep, structural, energetic, emotional reality that runs in my family. Because we had experiences generation after generation of being supported and accepted, and you know what I mean? And personal growth and all this stuff. So when I'm driving by this church, it's touching base on this something deeper on the ancestral level, that's like slowly sifting its way up to the surface of my awareness, right? Now, I am really big on having a community of similar, of like resonance, right? This is definitely a strategy to make it through this reality, right? Through these awakening times, is having others to resonate with, having others to have conversations on the level that, we're thinking about it. That's why I do these chats. So that's definitely a part of it. But there's something about specifically being connected in with the idea of a church. And it's resonating in a way that I never recognized before. And I imagine, this could be happening with some of you guys, where there's some thoughts or ideas that are coming completely out of left field that, is not normal. It's not a normal vein, not a normal thought stream for you. And that's why I'm putting voice to this. So we can recognize that these older ways, ancestral ways, we can call it, are coming up to the surface for us to be aware of. And in my knowing, I feel like extrapolate the highest truth of what that pattern offers us, right? What needs was that pattern fulfilling ancestrally, and how does it fit in our lives today, right? And I think this is potentially why there's so many people going back to the Christian movement. The Christian movement was dying off in my experience, especially, the shenanigans with the Catholic Church, and then the shenanigans with the Mormon Church, and the shenanigans with the Presbyterian Council. I mean, you guys might not know about those things, but there were some really big controversies that went on in these larger governing bodies of religion, and it was costing a lot of members. People were just walking away from the church, especially the abuse, the financial abuse. There's a lot of Lutheran churches that were having trouble because, the money wasn't handled right, and then they would always put it off on the people. And anyway, it doesn't matter, that part. So, but the bottom line is that people were leaving, and now it seems like now there's a revival. People are coming back, right? Some people are coming back. They may be coming back in alternative ways. I remember we used to do, on Sundays, we used to go to what we called dance church. That was so much fun. That was facilitated by a gentleman. He was a music teacher by trade, and he trained with Gabriel Roth back in the 80s and early 90s. And that was my favorite church of all time, was going to dance church. I was like, to me, that was like what real church was. dancing in a community, and we would dance themes, we would dance stories, we would just have spontaneous dance. I mean, it was all these different flavors of body movement. It just felt so good. And it also was framed up with connecting with source, dancing to connect with source. Actually, if I could find a dance church again, I think I would definitely do that. Anyway, so these old patterns are coming up, and I'm saying this so you guys can be invited into visiting it in a different way, rather than kind of like, what the heck, and maybe revisit the negative things that we had in relationship to our ancestors. Maybe visit the what the heck. How else can I relate to this that really feeds my soul, that can really support me while I'm on this journey, going through this reality with so many changes? And I think it's really important for our embodiment, for our being grounded and centered during super intense times. Now, for example, Felicia, yes, thank you so much for your comments. I'm gonna get to that after my example. For example, the political stage highly charges our 4D field, where it's hard to engage on any level without getting wrapped up with big emotional charges. And it doesn't necessarily need to be our emotional charges. A lot of times it's just we're faced with holding space for other people's huge emotional charges. And that takes a lot of work. Who wants to do that? I mean, do we want to do that? I think for me personally, I need to be in the mood. There's times when I have a lot going on, holding space for myself, let alone going into the super highly charged field. So that 4D field has a lot of chaos and a lot of poisonous mind programs, emotional triggering things inside of that. And that adds to the intensity that we're experiencing, on top of the electromagnetic pressure that we're under. These things that are happening in the earth, the seismic activity, the even the weather manipulation, what they call Schumann resonance. I don't think it's necessarily what they say it is, but what they call like these big energy fluxes that are happening actually in the ground, the solar flares, the radiation coming from different cosmic events. It's like this is all putting a lot of electromagnetic pressure on our own electromagnetic patterning and fields, and we're being faced with upgrading. Now, in order to upgrade, that means centering, that means being present, that means being in your body, right? And unfortunately, a lot of the teachings that we have going on are kind of like, they're not as potent as they need to be to really anchor us in a very practical way to engage with life. So I want to go into some very easy, simple things that we could be doing to ground and center. That's not the light worker woo woo, and I don't mean to insult light workers, but the grounding cord techniques and the growing root techniques, that yes, they can tune your energy more to the earth and help you feel a bit more centered. But we need something more than that, than when we can just sit and make that focus. We need something that is engaging us in every moment and every day, reminding us where we are in time and space, where we are inside of ourselves from moment to moment to moment. And that grounding cord thing and the root thing, I don't know about for you guys, just doesn't cut it, especially when things get super, super intense. So I want to just talk about some very simple things that you guys can just incorporate in your awareness practice on a daily basis, that is so easy, so simple, and it'll help you stay centered and grounded and practically present in a practical way in your life. All right, so I'm going to get to dear sister Starshine, Felicia. She has an interesting dream, looks like, to share. All right, it says, I was dreaming about my deceased mother-in-law, and she was supporting my journey unlike I ever experienced from her before. And I called in the creator beings to bring healing into our relationship. Okay, so you're in the dream calling that into the relationship. I'm just clarifying to make sure. Because when we're talking about dreams, sometimes if we're doing dream work, we in the hypnagogic state while we're semi-conscious, we will also do that, or in a lucid way also do that. So that's the little hair I'm asking about to split. Okay, and then suddenly I began to get pertinent memories of my discoveries about innocent wisdom. And I was thrilled to revisit the infinity symbol as it pertains to the relationship of innocence with wisdom. Tears flowed with the joy of discovering what I am meant to write about in my book. Oh, congratulations, writing a book. Can you expand on how we can tip can TP into multidimensional for creative process? Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's about, there's some layers there you can talk about. The flow state is a big one. So, because I too am writing some books. And one of them I'm just writing just right out of my head, and the other ones I'm taking things I've already done and asking AI to recollate, to put it in a one thought stream, because I'll have like 4 different transcripts where I talk a little bit about each piece in the different transcripts. So you know what I mean. So I'm asking AI to go through and recollate that for me. Yes. So. And actually, this totally falls in perfectly with this orientation idea that I have going on about being in the here and now and the simple things we could be doing. So in the flow state, that means you're letting you're visiting certain brain patterns in your moment, in your consciousness. So flow state means that you're not in any kind of inhibition. Dancing actually helps get out of some inhibitions, right? But also, just brainstorming, if you learned how to brainstorm, when you make the circles and you just put out all the ideas and come into your head, don't edit anything, just let it all pour out, and then later go over it. So, and even having intentions to pour out bad ideas is helpful. So, because that helps the editor inside to not have a priority, and it's more about the output. Just put out, see what's there. Now, some of us get into these hyperactive states, and I have this. And I discovered this actually playing word games. And for example, there's this word game called Scramble, which it's rather addictive, but in like 30 seconds, if you're just looking, a normal person, when they're just looking for words, you get maybe 30 to 50 words in 30 seconds. But I'll like get into these hyperactive states, which is a flow state, and it's like I can get like 200 words out in 30 seconds. Like it's really interesting. So if you know how to trigger that hyperactive state, that is something helpful depending on what stage you're in. Having an open flow state makes it also easier to be in an open-hearted state, in a loving state. The more open and loving we are inside of ourselves, the more of those multidimensional, higher dimensional aspects of our being can come in and touch us. It's because we're bypassing that 4D field. The heart, there's a beautiful initiation that dear sister Almeen does, where it's a practice of expanding the field, the heart field, to be expanded beyond even the Milky Way galaxy. It's like you start off with first expanding the heart field around your body, have a sense of what that is and how you did that, and then expanding the heart field around the house, the building, the landscape, the country, the planet, the moon, the solar ring. You just keep expanding the heart space. And as you figure out each time that you do that, it's liberating a lot of things on a deep subconscious level, and expanding that heart space more and more and more. Eventually that love, bliss, gratitude state is just like creating really big holes in the sieve of that 4D field, and your higher levels of consciousness can just just pour through. And if you've already prepared yourself for that hyperactive state, then it's pouring through and you can just lay it all out. And I would suggest leaving a big space between laying it all out and editing. It'd be great if you can have another person edit, actually, because that mode really, it's uplifting, it's moving energy through the body. When you have more consciousness coming through you, you also need to be really, really present with yourself, or else we'll start, leaving the body. It's like the body isn't properly attuned to have it all through. So that hyperactive state matches the frequency of that elevated consciousness that's coming through, through the solar plexus and the using the crossing over in the brain and stuff like that. And also, I would suggest paying close attention to where you are in time and space. If we have a habit of watching the sunrise or watching the sunset every day, if we have a habit of orientating where we are on the land, like here in Loveland or in the Front Range, the Rockies, I mean, very large 14,000 foot mountains are always to the west. So you always know what direction you're facing. You always know what direction west is. So it's really, I know that seems really super simple, but that helps orientate our consciousness in the here and now physical body. And so being orientated to where you are in the lands. If you have land that you walk on every day, if you have something in nature that you're in touch with every day, say it's a tree that you're always looking at or a landscape you're always looking at, that too helps the higher levels of your consciousness orientate to where you are in time and space. And then there's also other ways of manipulating the energy body, the physical body, because our electromagnetic fields are part of our physical body. Because I know a lot of people want to separate those things, but our energy bodies are part of our physical bodies, right? There's no separation in that. One comes with the other. One does not exist without the other. That's the beginning and the end of that story, right? So there is, that's something else that we need to get over, that somehow the energetic world is different than our physical world. Like the spiritual world, that has a place over here, and then there's the mundane world that has something over here. It's like, no, those are the same reality, we need to address what we need to address to allow those to occupy the same time and space in our consciousness. That too will help us be and feel more centered and more grounded. Okay. All right. I have expanded consciousness, and I am newly learning the ways of navigating what is presented. It is a joy to connect what I am shown to my present life. Yes. See, that's the other thing. It feels really good to bring that level of your consciousness into your here and now. It is an ecstatic experience, right? Just like with dance, it's an ecstatic experience. It's amazing. It feels phenomenal. And that's also because your heart is also opening more and more and more and more. And we also get to experience our heart in an expanded state that maybe we haven't experienced in a really long time. So it's very, very healing for our subconscious. It's actually very healing for all of our body. So it impacts our epigenetics. It impacts our DNA, our ancestors. I mean, just the act of being fully present while in those higher states has a ripple effect going through the dimensions, the lineages, and also uplifts the telluric realm of where you are in nature, where you are on the land, with the waters and the woods, on the beach, wherever you are. All of that benefits by simply us embodying. So you can see why grounding, in that meditative way with that grounding cord and roots, that's not enough. That's not enough. There's so much more. There's so much more. And I discovered, by working with, well, the immortal masters especially have been invaluable in the training, but working with higher dimensional beings, because they're all about, they have been all about the rhythms of life. You know, that's the sunset, the sunrise, that's the moon and its cycles, that's the seasons, right? All of these cycles are deeply, the patterns of these cycles are connected to a very deep knowing of our physical body, of our subconscious, of our ancestors. And then there's the cycles and rhythms that are part of our living, breathing energy field. Like it's very, as far as feeling one's own energy, feeling the energy of your solar plexus is one of the easiest ones to feel, because when you tune into the solar plexus, you'll notice a pulsing happening. And what's pulsing? It's not the heart. It's not the breath. It's because it has a breath. It has a pulse that's different. It's like and another one that is in the more dense kind of way, that's not too difficult to tune into, is the lower dantian. You know, because it when you spend time slowing down and feeling into that area, you'll notice that pulse. That is a rhythm that helps anchor your consciousness into your here and now moment. Yes, yes, yes. So, and this is one of the many reasons why we focus on the rhythms in our trainings. And of course, the easiest one is the breath. The breath is a rhythm, no matter where you are in your journey, where you are in your level of consciousness, you can always connect with the breath. And as the gurus and yogis and different spiritual masters of antiquity have taught us, the breath is the king of the mind. So just beginning with the breath and modulating the breath in some way, could be a breathing exercise, or it could be just making sure that your breath goes deep into your belly. It could be watching the breath so the exhalation is longer than inhalation. Any engagement with the breath like this instantly engages your nervous system in such a way you'll slow down. And slowing down is the key to being present and in maximizing the observations that you are possible for you to make. Okay. So then after that, it's the heartbeat. The heartbeat is a lot more elusive, because we have so much wounding and shutting down to our authentic self that has happened throughout the generations and throughout our upbringing. It takes a while to rearrange your subconscious to recognize that it's safe to feel your heart. It's safe to know this heartbeat. There's a lot of pain and betrayal and trauma, fear, so many things. And then there's the programming of the 4D. The 4D programs us constantly how painful it is to know our heart, right? What's that one song? Love hurts. Ooh, right? And it's just, the whole song is that over and over again. Of course, we're singing along and tuning into it, and not even recognizing that we're in a multidimensional, almost ceremonial way, programming our subconscious that love hurts, right? We're training ourselves. And this is everywhere we look in the social sphere, the sphere. It's like that 4D field is so inundated with this program. So to get to know one's heart again, even that is a journey, and even that is a transformative process. But once you can really sit with your heartbeat, then you can start to let yourself feel the quality of your heartbeat. And you'll notice that the quality of your heartbeat changes depending on where you are in the cycle of the day, depending on where you are in the cycles of your emotions, depending on where you are in your circadian rhythm. Okay, your heart, the quality of the beat will change. And then you're training yourself to pay even closer attention to your inner rhythm, your inner environment, in order to engage with this world. So those two things, the breath and the heartbeat, are really powerful, potent rhythms to pay attention to. It's grounding, it's centering, it is transformative. And the more, and you can take that even further. You can then engage with the physical beating heart in such a way where you can shift energies that have been stored there or anchored there or unintentionally placed there, like like certain restrictions that have happened. And there's a whole program that goes on in the Western world about your heart can attack you. Right? Now, isn't that an interesting program to examine? Can you imagine how many times you've heard that in your life? How many times you've heard that term in your life? How many times have you heard that term and experienced people who fear that? How many times have you heard that term and heard doctors talk about how serious it is? Okay, it doesn't matter if you believe them or not. It's just that you're hearing it. It's being repeated over and over and over again into your awareness and your subconscious, and eventually, because it's repeated so many times, it's now an echoing reverberation within your being. So now there's some part of you, whether you agree it or not, has that experience in your awareness that your heart can attack you, and it's deadly, right? So you can undo those things by paying attention to the heartbeat. You can undo the restrictions, the fears, the cautiousness of dealing with the heart by simply listening, paying attention, and smiling, 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 smiling right into the center of your heart. And you'll notice that your energy, the energies around the heart will start to move, start to shift, and suddenly it won't take much work at all to listen to the heartbeat. And then you can take that rhythm into tuning into another rhythm, and then into another rhythm, and into another rhythm. And when you do that, you are grounding and anchoring in such a profound way and creating a conduit for your higher levels of consciousness, for your multidimensional awareness to who you are as a cosmic being, a galactic being, a solar being, who you are on those levels. Now you have a direct line into that consciousness, just dropping in and residing right here. The more you do it, the easier it is. It becomes effortless. It becomes your default. And now you can channel any aspect of yourself effortlessly in any moment. That's why, and I'm going to just say this out loud so you guys understand, that's why I can be in a deep altered state, and a lot of people never notice because it's not that different than my regular state. You know what I mean? It's just because it's just a natural thing. In these chats I go into those flow states, it's just there. It's not a big effort. And and then there's that ripple effect of how much it heals the body and heals the environment around you. Now, there's a lot of physical stuff, there's a lot of physical pressures that we're going through, and this is where that embodiment is also very, very helpful. All right, here, I'm going to just read a couple of those comments coming in. Okay, so recently I discovered it is more beneficial to meet these beings of light by being present with my light. Yes, of course. A kind of energy greeting, a new realization of belonging. Yes. So that is an important moment when she's talking about that belonging. We call this feeling like coming home. It's like a feeling of being home. And that is not a location, but it's a state of being. And the more we have that embodied, the more of ourselves we can bring back home to ourselves, the more consolidated our consciousness will become. And that's such an important point, really. I just need to highlight that one. Okay. Heartbeat, I have a fibrillation, nearly died last year. What an experience of Pleased to be ongoing of elderhood. Yes, we do have that, don't we? We do have that to look forward to. Okay, there's also the oh, how do I say this? There's an embodiment piece here. So our heart is connected to vast, vast, vast levels of our consciousness. So when we are in our heart space, when we are in that bliss state, we can sense things on the other side of the cosmos. We can sense things going on in, say, with our brothers and sisters in the Pleiadian, in the Pleiades, our brothers and sisters in Sirian star system, or the Arcturian star system, or the Betelgeuse system, or the, you know what I mean? It's like we won't know necessarily that's what we're feeling and tapping into, but those shifts and movements that happen on those levels, we feel. And we can also actually experience it like skips in the heartbeat, or even what you're talking about, the afibrillation, right? She's talking about, that's the atrial valve she's talking about. So there's, we feel these things on a physical level. And what's helpful for us in knowing that is that when things happening cosmically are expressing itself on a physical level, we can now address that physicality in another way. It doesn't have to be through the medical system. It doesn't have to be through the system that we're taught, or the system that's accepted in those structures held by our dear brother star sign Saturn, right? We can start weaving in other ways to engage and bring healing, and you know what I mean, and advancing humans' connection. And this is why I'm so not in favor of the introduction of med beds, because that does not actually wake us up to the truth of who we really are as these infinite cosmic beings in a biosuit. You know, it's like, you're not just a star shine. That's on a solar level, but I mean, you are a cosmos. You are an entire universe of billions of stars, right? And this kind of integration into the realization of who and what we really are really changes things, and how we play the game of life, how we engage in this life. Now, I'm not saying don't do what you know to do for health and wellness. No. I'm just saying it's a journey of realizing what's possible. And there's so many layers to address there. I just felt really compelled to mention that part. Okay, so there's a question here about the Merkaba. How does the Merkaba enter into this consciousness? Okay, so there is, how do I say this? There's a lot of agendas being played out within the consciousness of humanity, because we are so vast, and because there is this interdimensional galactic, transgalactic empire at play, as a power game, that a lot of souls are interested in playing in. Okay, so it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. A lot of souls are interested in playing in it. I'm just saying, from the perspective of being in this human form, that because of our perceptions, we are a bit vulnerable to that particular to those agendas that express themselves through sacred geometry. For example, there is so much controversy about the Merkaba in the idea of which direction should it be spinning. Some say both the upper and lower triangle should be spinning counterclockwise. Some say both of them should be clockwise. Some say the top one should be clockwise and the bottom one should be counterclockwise. And some say even the opposite of that. And what I'm here to tell you is that the way that that particular geometry spins has everything to do with the kinds, levels of consciousness and the kinds of universes you are tuning into. Okay. And that is something that is a bit of a rabbit hole, but it's also, I'm just going to say this out loud so you guys have it, is also purposely put in place like that with that perspective to manipulate. Okay. Now, if you look closely, and I did a little bit of study with this because I was trying to figure out why I had such an aversion to the teachings of the Merkaba, because I've had that aversion ever since I was in my teens. So I was introduced to this stuff very young, and particularly through the Vedic teachings. Okay, so the Vedic teachings go back. Well, the book itself is like over 5,000 years old, but the stories within the book go back 10,000 years, 15,000 years, 40,000 years, you know, and this is something that always bugged me. Like, why in the world does that land like that for me? And then I worked directly with Drunvalo, who is really big on the Merkaba teachings, right, and the Sacred Heart teachings. But so later, way later, in his journey of these teachings, because he came out with the Flower of Life teachings. I don't know if you guys know, this is a series of videos. It's old school, right? Came out in the 90s. I think it was the 90s. Yeah, I'm positive it was the 90s. Anyway, and way later, like 30 years, I don't know, 20 years later, some time has passed of many people being exposed to those teachings and doing the Merkaba work. We're saying that there's something, there's something that's off. There's something that's not right. And later he came out and said, well, yeah, because that was an artificial Merkaba. That was an artificial construct, and it was not organic. Now, I know we're having difficulties with terminology right now in this transition of multidimensional understanding. So the words artificial and organic aren't quite as descriptive as they need to be to accurately talk about this, but they're the words I have. So Drunvalo, oh, he's a great teacher, don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, really interesting fellow. I learned so much about him, from him, especially in regards to geometry. Like, for example, the sacred mean, the Fibonacci sequence, that spiral is specific to a particular reality. There are other means. There are other Fibonacci sequences. There are other sequences that are like the Fibonacci. There are different ratios. When that unfolds within life, it does unfold here on this planet, which tunes that being into a completely different universe, yet is walking around on this planet. How's that possible? Right? That's an excellent thing to contemplate. How is that possible if they are tuned to a completely different universe, but we are sharing the same 3D space on this planet? That is worth that's worth deep contemplation, folks. That's going to open you up to some excellent ideas that are going to free you from a lot of teachings of this planet that kind of keep us confined to a particular reality. Okay, but if you look at if you study, or in the study of the Merkaba even closer, there's a geometry within the Merkaba, and that geometry, I have such a deep resonance with it. As soon as I saw it and realized it, I realized that I know that shape. I know that shape so deeply, and it's like that's the home feeling I had. I had a belonging feeling when I looked at that shape, and that shape is the I think it's called a star tetrahedron. That's when you have two 4-point pyramids that have a base of 4, and they're together like this, so it looks like a diamond. That geometry is and that's the center of the Merkaba. Okay, and when it's oscillating, there's no when it's the oscillation feels completely different. It doesn't matter if it's going what we would perceive clockwise or counterclockwise. It feels like it has the same center point. That's to me. Okay, so in that I actually learned from a Celtic medicine woman. It's like, where'd that come from? But the Celts, there's a lot of deep, deep, deep mystery school teachings within that discipline, or school of thought, I should say, that are really activating for us, because many of us are descendants. We have ancestors in the Celtic lands, from that culture. So that's my long story about Merkaba, engaging with the Merkaba. Okay, that I think is a star tetrahedron. I'm almost positive that's the name of it. I could be wrong. Siri, show me a star tetrahedron. No, it's not going to do it. Okay, it's because I'm in my car. Anyway, so that is some golden food for thought for you guys. That's the pyramid, the 4-base pyramid, 2 of them put together. That is for me, the cosmic vehicle, the vehicle for traveling with my consciousness and keeping my cellular intelligence intact while I go through the cosmos. Oh my gosh, I'm having a download just thinking about it now. So imagine, what we think traveling through the cosmos is that we get into something and then we go there, right? It's like we leave this planet somehow, but really this planet is our anchor point, is our embodiment point. And what we're doing, what real travel is doing, is that we go in, we hit this harmonic frequency within ourselves. That diamond shape holds holds our consciousness in a particular bandwidth of integrity. And instead, time space folds around us and it comes to us. So, oh my gosh, right in this moment, it's like I'm shifting and I can pull forward. There's a being actually coming right to me. Boom. And I know this being. Beautiful. Okay. So that shape is really powerful, and it opens up our consciousness to understand of thinking, get to a way of thinking that is beyond the idea of linear time and space. The only 2 dimensions that linear time and space exist in is 3D and 4D. Everything else is a different kind of time. You have 90 time, you have time, galactic time. That is not linear. Okay, that is not linear. That is about unfolding. That gives us the actual ability to perceive a storyline unfolding and an intention being played out and coming full circle. That's what galactic time allows us. You see what I mean? So we these shapes, these geometries, if that's even the right word for them, because are really potent when we contemplate them and we anchor certain frequencies of them within us. It opens our consciousness to things that that transcend the teachings of the current times of this planet. And now that I'm saying this out loud with you guys, this diamond contemplation is massive. Thank you, dear Felicia, for even triggering me to do that and to think about that. It's been a while since I've touched those teachings. But now that I'm here with it, wow, I can feel this conduit in my neck and my throat, my high heart, even my perineum, my sacrum. It's like everything is kind of like consolidating. That's the word. And this particular being that's showing up is an amphibian that I know very well. We've seen each other before. And this is a key of waking up to what they're saying is to think in the realm of dream time. Yeah, so thinking in the realm of dream time is really, really liberating. For example, when you try to explain a dream, it's so difficult to explain with linear language, right? But the more we do that, the more what I'm hearing is life we breathe into the language we speak. The more life we breathe into our engagement and communication, it's like there's even more presence that is possible when we bring this into practice. Wow, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And they're also indicating that we have been on a long journey, and there's no end in sight, so don't worry about an ending. It's funny they say that. I think what they're speaking to is the Armageddon programming or the war programming, the frequency in the 4D field that tells us that, we have to go into survival mode and respond to fear and do this and do that. This magical unfoldment can truly be timeless. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. I'm being triggered to revisit my spirit path of some really relative parts that can deepen now in metro. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Wow. All right, guys. So we've kind of been all over the gamut. I want to bring us back to the practices of centering more presence in the here and now. What you pay attention to participates, feeds your capacity to be present. So pay attention to the landscape you're in. What's north? What's west? For example, I am on the Front Range. There are massive 14ers all right through here. I spent many years here, so I've cultivated a relationship with these 14ers. So there's a spiritual connection to these mountains as well, which serves as an automatic kind of centering. Pay attention to the rhythms. That's the sunrises and sunsets. Pay attention to the solar cycles, of course, the lunar cycles. The more we set our lives to these rhythms, the easier it is to embody our multidimensional awareness and be present in the here and now, which means the easier it is for us to walk our path of purpose. Why we're even getting up out of bed, why our spirit has even decided to go through the intense process of getting born and living in this world. I mean, it's not random. There's a reason. And we went through a lot to get here. So why not really do what we need to do to fulfill that purpose? I feel like it really helps us transcend this program. A lot of the programs that make us feel small and guilty and shameful, and you know what I mean? Those lower level programs that kind of shut us off to the true nature of who we are as cosmic beings in this biosuit, All right, darlings. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. We went to some very interesting places. I'm going to continue to sit with this being. This is really, I feel like this beautiful, I want to say starlight just kind of pouring in here. So I want to sit and spend some quiet time with that. If you guys have topics and issues that are really burning in your brain and you want me to talk about them, you can email them to us at wecare@lightbodyacademy.com. I'm happy to talk about with you guys. It's really an honor to be able to do a service like this for you guys to help you have your empowered awakening. Yeah, let's learn through joy. Let's learn through amazement and learning. And let's just decide to be done with the fear game. We can make this a magical path. We can make this whatever we want. So if I can help you have that, then absolutely. Also, if you want to join our community and adapt these practices of tuning into the rhythms and being in community of similar resonance, I encourage you guys to check out the Light Body Essentials program. We have the Energy Mastery that's at the beginning of the month. This is like key, powerful pieces about keeping good energetic hygiene, staying potently grounded and centered from your moment to moment. And of course, it's so much fun to connect with others and learn how to track energy together and go onto this path of exploring your abilities as a multidimensional being. It's so much fun to track in groups when when we're all in resonance and support of each other. And of course, there's those quantum activations that I do once a month where we clean out the density and activate on the quantum levels more consciousness, receive transmissions for growing other aspects and healing and growing aspects of the light body to for you to become that full on homoluminous being with multidimensional access, with unshakable connection with self. And that's the goal of those things. So I encourage you guys to check that out. Thank you guys. Love you. Mwah. I hope you guys make it a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.